You're listening to the Straight to Video podcast with Rob Lane.
All right, welcome on board for a brand new Straight to Video podcast. I truly hope you're doing good. And on today's show, I'm proud and excited to bring you a chat with Scott Sorry. Scott and I recently completed a UK tour, which, as you'll hear from our talk, really meant a lot to the both of us. But for Scott, it really was a game changer for him after all the events he's been through over the past few years. And to hear him chat all about the tour and some of the things he's gone through, dealt with, and come out the other side, all guns blazing, is super inspiring. This man needs to be protected at all costs as he's a real legend, and I could see that in the crowd's reaction to his band's set every night on the recent tour, and you can hear it in the stories he tells in this podcast. So before we get into it, what else is new? Well, we had a great early Halloween event at the Straight to Video 80s video shop this past weekend with special guest Graham Humphreys, who did some of the iconic VHS artwork in the 80s from The Evil Dead and Nightmare on Elm Street and The Return of the Living Dead, to name but just a few. Thanks to everyone who came along and literally packed the place out all afternoon. I know Graham was thrilled with the turnout, so hopefully we'll have more events like this in the future. Next up, though, are our Halloween theme nights on the 28th and 29th of October. You can spend the evening with us in the shop from 7 till 11 p.m. Bring your own booze, see if you can escape our Slaughtered Lamb escape room, test your horror knowledge in our Halloween quiz, and play 80s arcade games in our screening room. These events are super fun but limited on space, so grab your tickets from 80svideo.co.uk or find us on social media at 80s Video Shop. Alright, let's do this. Scott recently released the incredible single Saint of Philadelphia in memory of our friend Roger Siegel, which you can download now on Bandcamp, and there's also a brand new Scott Sorry Grand Theft Audio collaboration up there too, which was recorded on tour under the moniker Sorry Audio, which is a cover of Mission of Burma's That's When I Reach for My Revolver, which also has a great video playing on YouTube. But right now, please enjoy my straight to video chat with Scott Sorry.
You ready? 1, 2, 3. Put the pen to paper, but I don't wanna write this song. 'Cause it ain't gonna sound right when you don't sing along. And I loved you like my brother. Now all my brothers are gone, and we're looking to each other for the will to carry on. Smashing our plans in the back of the thing and writing at the deck. We all came home in pieces, man, but what did you expect? And the city's heart will break for the Saint of Philadelphia. Glasses will be raised to the bright blue sky above. And the city's heart will break for the Saint of Philadelphia. In the city of brotherly love.
You hear me, Rob?
I've got you, man. I've got you twice.
There he is. Look at that. Hell,
How do we get rid of one?
I don't know. I don't know what the hell just happened. Hold on. All right, there. Right?
Yes.
We did it. How you doing?
I'm good, mate. Cool to see you. It's like I only saw you 2 weeks ago.
Feels like a lifetime, though, dude.
Oh, man.
Who the fuck are all my friends?
How's your day been?
Today was rad. Let's see what I do today. I went out and did up all the Halloween lights actually on the house, because we did the village inside, and then Rorik, my youngest, yesterday was looking outside, and I was like, "What's wrong, dude?" And he's like, "Where's all the lights on the tree?" And I was like, "Shit. Dad's been on tour. I've been slacking. I'm sorry."
Was it pulling them all out of storage and getting them all up there?
Yeah, I pulled them out of storage, and I had to see what was working, what wasn't. I had to make a trip to Lowe's, and I got it all set up now so that when it hits 4:50, all the lights will turn on.
Shit's gonna get real.
It's gonna get real. He's upstairs watching something right now, and at 4:50, it'll be like Christmas Vacation where all the neighbors' lights are going to get blown out.
So if we're still talking at that point, all hell's going to break loose.
True.
We have been warned. Nice one, man. Well, thank you for doing this. It's very cool. I'm looking forward to it. So you've had a week or so to settle back at home. Have you had a chance to reflect on the recent UK tour and what it meant to you? I know whilst even during the tour you felt it was something special. So how does it feel looking back now you're at home?
It seems surreal, dude. I mean, like, that was such a good time. The whole time was such a good time. And it felt like it wasn't going to end. And then it did. And I was like, I love seeing my family. I love being dad and being husband and all that stuff. But damn, I really miss it, dude. 2 weeks out, I'm like, okay, where's the guys?
Just seeing that little video of you, Rich and Jay, just like mumbling along and talking about stuff on the bus. It's like, you just take it for granted at the time.
No, totally.
Yeah.
When I'm home, I don't do a lot, right? When I'm home, it's like work, kids, hang out with my wife as much as we can, but she works a ton too, so we don't get a ton of time. So I really don't like leave my house for like ever. I don't drink, so I don't go to bars. And honestly, I'd rather just hang out with my kids anyway and like do music and stuff in the basement when I have time or do some writing or something. So I'm not usually around people that much anymore. So being on a bus with 16 people, you know,
could have gone either way.
But it was rad because everybody was so much fun. You know, playing every night was awesome. And definitely I needed that. Like I needed to exercise some demons, like for sure. But it wasn't just about, like, my favorite part was everything around the shows. Like there is that sense of camaraderie between everybody, you know, with all of us loading in and out.
It came pretty fast as well, I thought. Because, I mean, how many people did you know on the tour beforehand? Obviously, Toshi, Dunk, Rich, CJ.
Yeah, I knew Toshi, Rich, CJ, my band, obviously, Gav, and I knew Lee. Not as well as I do now, but I knew Lee.
Had you met Jay in the past? Had he come to any gigs?
I hadn't met Jay, but I feel like I should have known Jay for like my entire life. You know what I mean? You know, there's a couple people that I've never met that I can't believe I never met. One of them is Danny Wildheart. I've never met Danny, but we have literally all of our friends are the same people, and I have no idea how we haven't met. And another one of them was Jay. And I have no idea how me and Jay have never met.
Probably good you met now and not back in the day.
Totally. It's probably good that sober Scott and sober Jay met because there could have been some serious fuckery going on that bus.
Oh, man. Awesome. So you return home to your wife and kids. Has it been like full on Halloween mode as soon as that plane touched down?
Yeah, basically. I mean, plane hit and we literally went straight from, I got off the plane, we drove to Boston, or we drove from Boston to Gorham, which is where I live in Maine. I literally think I put my bags down and we went to Spirit Halloween store because they were like, okay, game on, let's go pick out some costumes and stuff.
That's so good. What did they choose?
If they choose anything now, they're going to change their mind. When we got there, it was like 6 weeks to Halloween. They will change their mind 6 times, regardless if we buy stuff now. So I have to wait until really the week before to let them settle in on something. Because they've already told me, you know, that they want to be 4 or 5 different things since we went to Spirit.
Is it when they see something on TV, watch a film, like, oh, that's what I'm going to be?
Yes, 100%. And half the time, I don't even know where it comes from. Half the time, I'm like, they'll tell me some like video game guy or something. Okay, cool, whatever. I'm sure that's what you want to be right now. But that's not what you're going to want to be by the weekend.
They'll see something on YouTube. I've got friends with kids who like know everything about Pennywise, but they've never seen the It films. Or they know everything about Jason, but they've never seen a Friday the 13th film because they've seen little bits on YouTube.
See, my boys are definitely schooled on that stuff. Ryder, in particular, my middle son, is the horror aficionado. He was the kid. So when he was like 3, one of my favorite movies is Jaws, and they were playing Jaws 2 on television. So it was edited. So it wasn't like it wasn't gory or anything like that. And I was sitting there watching it with him. And at the end of the movie, he starts getting really excited and he's like, shark, 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 shark. Right. And then Jaws bites the power cable and explodes. and or not explodes, but like fries or whatever. And he gets like super sad. And he's 3, right? And I was like, dude, were you rooting for the shark? And he's like, shark's dead. And he got all mopey, and I was like, my 3-year-old is literally rooting for the bad guy. That is awesome.
How old were you when you first saw Jaws? If he was 3.
I had to be, I don't know. I was pretty young. I don't remember exactly when, but I was pretty young when I first saw it. I know I saw it when we used to live in Schenectady, New York, which is real upstate New York. I'm pretty sure I saw it then, if not earlier.
Do you have any specific memories of Halloween growing up? Did you grow up in like Pennsylvania, or did you move around a lot when you were a kid?
Kind of moved around a lot, but from the age of like 8 until 15, I lived in Allentown, Pennsylvania, which is like it's like an hour outside of Philly. My birthday is the day before Halloween. My birthday is Devil's Night. And I really took to that. It was like fall came, and that meant my birthday was coming up. That meant Halloween was coming up. I was always really into spooky stuff. My mom used to do shit where she'd put this fly mask on that was 2 eyes and a nose, hide in my closet, and wait till I started falling asleep and like jump out and terrify me. It used to fuck me up actually thinking about it. Like she would like hide under my bed and do that shit. But she made all the like holidays really special, but that one was just one that I always really gravitated to. And our town, it was like E.T., like that scene in E.T. when the entire town is done up. That's how our town was when I was a kid. People everywhere. The streets were just packed, and I loved it.
Are you the youngest in your family?
No, so it's weird. I have an older stepbrother and I have an older half brother, but I didn't grow up with them.
Right.
I was the oldest from my brother, Jason and Camille. My younger brother, Jason, and then our youngest sister, Camille.
Right. Did you all used to go out trick-or-treating together then?
No.
No?
No. I went out by myself a lot. Because it was back in the time when you could do that. You could just take off with your buddies. We lived in like this total Stranger Things-esque development where all the kids just rode bikes around and hung out with each other. And we were like 9. And the rule was just be home before the sun goes down. But if we were trick-or-treating, it was like be home by 10 or whatever. So we were really kind of left to our own devices for as long as I can remember.
I think anybody from that generation was, to be honest.
Yeah. Like nowadays, we all do it as a family. When the kids were younger, we would all dress as the same thing. Now they're getting older and that's getting harder to do. But we still go with them kind of for safety reasons, but mostly because I just fucking like trick-or-treating. And I have to go with them. I can't really go on my own.
Yeah, like some 40-year-old dude knocking on the door.
Yeah. Trick-or-treat.
Superb, man. When it comes to like rock music and stuff like that, was there anyone in particular who introduced you to rock and roll? Because I think you got like your first guitar at 14, so that would be like the early 90s, just as hard rock was having its head flipped on itself.
So what introduced me to rock and roll? See, like my family, when I grew up, my parents were into like, my stepdad loved Whitney Houston and like a yuppie rock, a yacht rock, Phil Collins and all that kind of stuff.
Is he a Huey Lewis guy?
He was a total Huey Lewis guy. Like that movie, the fuck is it?
American Psycho. You gonna go there?
Yes, American Psycho. That was the soundtrack that I grew up to. Like all that shit. And there was something that really drew me to music, but it wasn't like, that wasn't hitting the nail on the head for me. So when I was young, I would like listen to the 50s station, like Big Bopper and Little Richard, like really old classic stuff. I loved it. I didn't really like popular music, but I knew I really liked music. And then Guns N' Roses and all that stuff started getting really big. And I was like, whoa, what's this? And I got really into Guns N' Roses and got really into Motley Crue, but fucking hated the metalheads because the metalheads would always whoop my ass, right? So guys that were wearing like Kiss t-shirts and even Guns N' Roses t-shirts and Motorhead t-shirts, like they would just kick my ass all the time.
Why?
Because where I lived, it was like Camaros and fucking Aerosmith and all that shit. And even though I love that shit, not Kiss, can't stand Kiss, but I I gotta go on there because fucking Andy Watts is gonna see this and he's gonna be, you talked about Kiss, and I'm like, oh, fuck you, right? We're gonna start fighting and blah blah. But like, there was this group of kids. It was like the shop kids, right? They would just walk around the halls and beat your ass. And I was like, I didn't fit with them. Even though I liked this music, I wasn't like fitting in with them. And then I remember one night I was listening to the radio and I was flipping through the stations and I came across the Lehigh Valley Community College station. And the first thing that they played was the Clash Safe European Home. And I threw a tape in my cassette, right, and hit record and recorded this whole show that ended up basically being the soundtrack to my youth. And I want to actually remake this and cover it as a cover record and call it I Was a Teenage Mixtape, right? Because it was The Clash, The Descendants, The Toy Dolls, Fear, Anti-Nowhere League, all these bands that ended up shaping who I was.
What year would this be?
93, 94? So I left home in 95. It would have had to have been like 93, mid 93.
How much did you listen to that tape?
Oh, dude, I drew up a cover for it and everything. Like, I made my own shit. And then every time that show would come on, I'd make a new tape. But the first one I had, I can still remember the cover. I drew like this punk dude with a mohawk, because, you know, that's what I thought I was supposed to do. And fucking loved it. That's when I really found who I was. And I had just bought a guitar.
I don't want to be Slash anymore. I want to be...
Yes. So it was literally, Slash was the dude I want. Like, Slash and Angus Young were the guitar players that I loved, right? Angus a little more than Slash. I loved AC/DC. I loved Bon Scott AC/DC. So I have a few different dads, right? 3 that I love all the same. My last stepdad, who's my current stepdad, even though the previous stepdad is still my dad, they're all my dads. Dad number 3 introduced me to AC/DC and all that shit. And I loved Angus Young. And when I bought my first guitar magazine to learn how to play, I bought it because it had an SG on the cover. And that's what Angus played, and I wanted to play like him. And then I listened to punk rock, and I was like, fuck all that. I just want to write songs. I could do that then. I could immediately write songs.
You had a good ear for songs, right? I think I've heard you say that you was able to pick stuff up pretty easy.
I could listen to something and play it back pretty quick. Always been able to do that. But it was like listening to the stories in the songs. I could do that immediately. I didn't have to practice years and years and years to be as good as Angus Young on guitar. I could immediately start writing songs. That's how I felt anyway. I was like, maybe I just want to start writing songs and not worry about doing all the whittly diddly shit. Just start writing songs. You know, these guys are not doing all the whittly diddly shit. They're just writing these cool songs. I just want to do that. That's really what got me hook, line, and sinker.
Was you singing at the same time? Did you go straight in with singing, or was that just something you had to do with songwriting?
I went in with singing straight away. I had started this band called Guy Smiley. I was just like, we're going to be fucking the best punk rock band in Allentown.
But you mentioned earlier you left home shortly after that at 15.
Yeah. Actually, music is the reason I left home. We started playing shows and we were like sneaking around to play these shows like keggers and stuff like that, parties. And we got a gig at this place called Scarlett O'Hara's in Allentown, which was this punk club that you could play if you were underage. And we went, and it was like my first like hardcore band I was in. Terrible. But this band called Absolute Zero. So this is actually pre-Guy Smiley. A bunch of us made this hardcore band, and we went and played this show, and it was dreadful. We were fucking terrible.
How many rehearsals had you had at that point?
Like 1.
Obviously.
We did like a Neil Young cover, right? Like, it was fucking dreadful. We were so bad. You know, we were all like 14, 15 years old. There was just all these like older punks that were there. And I remember there was this girl that was in this band, Third from the Sun, which was like a bigger band in Allentown. And she came up to me and she's like, you guys, don't let this make you stop playing. She was basically like, you're going to have a lot of work to do, but don't let this make you stop playing. Right. And I remembered that. And then within 6 months, I started that band Guy Smiley, and we went back and sold it out within 6 months.
Was she at that show? Do you know?
I don't know. It was just a bunch of my friends and shit, but it wasn't a very big place. So sold out means like 100 people. But for us, it was huge.
It's crazy how like little bits of advice like that, they just like stick with you.
Yeah, I can still remember her. I can still remember what she looked like. I can still remember where I was sitting when I talked to her. Like I can still, it's like a vivid picture. And every time someone's been like, when are you going to quit this? I always think about that. I'm like, I'm not going to quit it. I'm never going to quit it. I might do something else as well, but I'll never quit it. Why would you ever quit making art? Of course we suck. We're 15, you know, not even 14. Like we literally snuck out to fucking play these shows. Like,
had you ever seen a live gig before? Had you been to a concert at that point?
No.
You'd not been to like a Whitney Houston concert or a Huey Lewis concert?
No. The first actual show I went to, the Ramones at this place called Barrett's Beach Pit in Allentown, which was just this little like dive bar.
Did you know who the Ramones were at that point?
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah. I saw them, and then I saw the next week, I saw Green Day at the same place. And like, I mean, if I wasn't already sold before I saw those two shows, there was no looking back after those. That was it. And I was like, I'm done. Fuck everything else. This is what I'm going to do forever. And I'm 43 now, and I'm still fucking doing it.
So you leave home at 15, you head to San Jose in California to meet your birth father, right?
Right.
How long had it been since you'd last seen him? Was you like really young when your parents broke up?
Yeah, I was really young when they split, and I didn't really know him that well. I'd seen him a couple times. He lived in San Jose. We moved to Schenectady, New York when I was like 4. So I didn't know him that well at all. And I'd gone and like visited him once or twice on like a holiday here and there, but we didn't really know each other. And then I was, you know, being 15 and crazy, decided to leave home. I actually left home to play that show I told you about, the last show that I played with Guy Smiley. I ran away from home to be able to play that because I wasn't allowed to play shows anymore.
Screw you guys.
Yeah, I was like, I'm fucking out. Hold on one sec. Just so you know, I'm just going to jump in real quick. You're definitely going to meet my kids. My kids are definitely not going to let me just do this. I already hear them hollering for me. So they will pop downstairs.
That's fine.
You will hear their voices, right? In fact, yeah. Nope. Give me a minute. Give me a minute, dude. Yes, go ahead.
He's on countdown for those lights. There must have been so many like different experiences being loaded onto you at that time. Coming to the end of school, getting heavily into music, a totally different location in San Jose, and then building this relationship with a parent. I mean, can you put into words where your head was at? Because I couldn't imagine what that was like.
So sometimes I wish I would have stayed home because like there's things that I missed out on, but I wouldn't change that the way I grew up for the world. When it comes to like missing out on time with my folks and like my mom and stuff, I wish I would have been able to stay home and hang out with her more. But at the same time, I wouldn't have known my dad. And so I'm very stoked that I got that opportunity to get to know my dad. And I also I went out there at the same time that I couldn't be in the house. And my dad was like, listen, don't get arrested and we won't have any problems. And I was like, okay. And he's like, do what you want. Don't get in trouble. Don't get arrested. And I'll trust you to be you.
That was off the bat.
That was off the bat. I don't really think he knew how to, you know, when I got off the plane, I had a ripped up Ramones t-shirt and like a mohawk and combat boots and ripped up jeans. Right. And he had like his golf suit on. Right. So he was expecting like his golf buddy to get off the plane and be like, yeah, we're going to go fishing and golfing and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, the fuck we are, you know? So I was a little bit of a culture shock for him, but he took it really well. And like, you know, he didn't understand who I was or where I was coming from. But even though he would do like the, when are you going to get a real job kind of shit, he never pushed back on me doing music or anything like that. I had to get a job, right? Which gotta get a job. And I had to do good in school. And as long as I did those things, he was like, whatever, do what you want. And I did those. I got a job at the Via Valiente Round Table Pizza, which is still my favorite place that I've ever worked. And I busted my ass in school and graduated a year early. Now, after that, I didn't go back, but I did what I had to. And he just kind of let me do my shit. So I would like skateboard down to the light rail, which was like 4 miles away. and get on the light rail and take the light rail to downtown San Jose when I'm like 16 years old. And I loved it because I'd go like skating downtown and I'd see all these places that I saw in Thrasher magazine, and I'd see like skaters that I saw in Thrasher magazine. I'd watch them skate. I was like in this place that I had just been dreaming of in Pennsylvania less than 6 months earlier. I was like meeting all these awesome bands and like seeing all these great bands. And
so it's not only the music culture, it's the skate culture as well combined, which kind of ties in with the punk rock as well.
It was everything. Like San Jose at that time when I moved out there was just like this punk rock mecca. And there was this band called The Blanks. They were like a rockabilly misfits. Just the coolest band that I'd ever seen. And my buddy Lone knew one of the guys. He worked with them, and they snuck us into one of their shows because we were 16 and they were playing this place called the Cactus Club that was like 18 and over. And I just watched this band and was just in complete disbelief at how cool they were. And I ended up becoming really good friends with all of them, including my buddy Matt, who runs Generation X-Ray Records, which is where we put the Black Dog Dancers vinyl out.
That relationship goes like way back.
Lifelong friends, you know, and that was all just me being into punk rock and finding out it was just punk rock, skateboarding, art. And I met so many people just being a kid skateboarding around San Jose, finding that shit.
Was there a particular point when you thought things were starting to take off with music? Was you like either getting call-ups, or was there a particular tour where things started to click and like, yes, I did choose the right path. I'm on my way now.
Well, yes. So I've been playing in a couple bands in San Jose that were doing really well. And then this guy, Jason, asked if I wanted to be like a touring musician for a project that he was putting together. The style of music was not what I'm into at all. It was kind of like a Kid Rock kind of a thing. But I was like, this is an opportunity to just get out and meet people and do the thing, you know, like get out and tour and get paid for it. And he worked at this place in Redwood City that was like where Third Eye Blind was working out of, like this studio that like Eric Valentine and stuff would work out of. And I started meeting all these like really big names through that. I'd be going to like the Warner Brothers offices in Los Angeles and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I think I may have struck gold here.
You got your foot on the ladder. You broke at least the first glass ceiling.
Right. But in true Scott Sorry fashion, I didn't just break that ceiling. I just destroyed everything. I was just like I was poised. I had a lot of really good opportunities, right? That I was just too crazy to keep hold of. I got a lot of trouble.
Oh man.
I'm pissed off a lot of people.
Yeah. But you had this amazing run of bands. You had Amen,
Yep.
and Brides of Destruction, the Wildhearts, obviously.
Yeah.
Then branching out on your own with Sorry and the Sinatras, now under your name Scott Sorry. Have I got this right? Was it at a Brides of Destruction show in North Carolina, I think, where you first met Roger and Lenny?
I did. Yeah. We were at this place called Jack's. I was actually just thinking about this because I went for a run today. And when I run, I don't listen to music or anything. I just kind of let my mind go where it goes. And I just started thinking about the first time I met Lenny and Roger. And it was at this place called Jack's in North Carolina. And Trashlight Vision was opening for us in the Brides. And Lenny just kind of sat down next to me and was like, he talked to you like this because he had like one eye that was a little off, right? And he always kind of like tilted his head and be like, who the fuck are you? Right? And I'd be like, I'm Scott. He's like, well, nice to meet you. You see that girl? She's cute. And we like just immediately started looking at girls. Kind of like immediately started joking around. And well, I guess we should start drinking because we're buddies now. So
2 minutes in.
and like Roger came over and I met Roger, but it was really brief. Like Raj kind of came over and hung out for a minute. But Lenny and I really hit it off and really became, you know, friends for life after that one meeting. We would like call each other and shit weekly. And then things kind of started changing in Trashlight, and he wasn't in Trashlight anymore. And I had just moved to Manchester, New Hampshire, like trying to put something together. And he called me up, and I think he was supposed to tour with Michael Graves. And Michael Graves canceled the tour like the day before. And he called me up and he was like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing. I want to start a band. And I was like, well, I just started a band. Like, do you have a drummer? Like, no, I literally just told you I'm starting a band. So come on up. Like, me and this guy, Danny, had just started writing some shit together. And I was like, yo, just come up. And he did. He drove up to New Hampshire. Rags followed. They both like skipped town in the middle of the night and like drove up and lived in the rehearsal space for a year.
Incredible. I love it. We've had Jason Sanderson on this show, who produced your Highball Roller album by the Sinatras, which he described as, if you ever want to know what a band sounds like live, then you should listen to that record, as it perfectly captures it. What brought you all the way from the States to record in a brand new studio that wasn't even properly wired up yet in Barnsley?
That's life, man. Life did that. That's how my life has always been. Like, my life has never been, there's a direct path from point A to point B. There's never been that. There's never been like, this is going to be easy for you. It's never been like that. It's always been like, okay, let's start a band in Manchester, New Hampshire after we all fuck off everything else. In fact, let's move to Manchester, New Hampshire, which is like the most bullshit, gross place I've ever lived. From San Francisco, which is like the best place I've ever lived. Let's start a band there, and then let's get a record deal and go to Barnsley. Right? Like, we got hooked up with Undergroove Records, and Undergroove said, we'll put you up with Jason Sanderson. And we were like, yeah, fuck it. Let's go do a record in England. Why not? And then we got there and all hell broke loose. Poor Barnsley.
24/7.
All the time.
What do you remember most about it? Do you remember the recording session or the stuff that happened outside of the recording session?
I remember on consecutive nights, Lenny got really shit-faced and quit the band one night. The next night, Roger got really shit-faced and quit the band. There's a big situation that happened the first night that we were there that I can't talk about.
Jason hinted at a little bit of that, so people can go back and listen to that episode if they want to get the details on that.
Yeah, I wasn't involved. I stayed home because my leg was fucked. But Lenny and Roger went out and found themselves some trouble. And, I remember that time really vividly, but all I remember is hanging out with him and hanging out with Jason.
Was the band super, super tight when you went in?
Oh, yeah. We were super tight, but we were also so drunk all the time. We fucking were. We were like, we were super tight, but we just couldn't keep our shit together. I recorded in Denmark once with Jacob Hansen, and he was like, I don't work after 5 o'clock. And we were just like, what the fuck do you mean you don't work after 5 o'clock? That's bullshit. But for a band like the Sinatras, that would have been the best way to properly do it. Because by 5 o'clock, we were fucked, right? We were just shithoused, I mean, if you listen to the tracks, it's like Lenny's just like going fucking crazy. There's a couple songs that made it on the record that were like supposed to be half the speed of what they were. I mean, Jason's right. Like, Jason on that record, he captured us. He captured how we were like a bunch of monkeys trying to fuck a football. And he captured it, and he captured it well, like even little bits where I'd like sing and like scream too hard and pass out. Right. And my like fall down and hit the floor. You can hear Roger going, oh, you fucking passed out again. There's like all these little things that you don't hear unless that are on that record that like really capture who we were.
How long was you there for?
Like a month.
Holy shit. Has Barnsley recovered yet?
I mean, it felt like a month. Maybe it was 2 weeks, but we were there for a while. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't even that long. Maybe it just seems like it was that. But I want to say it was like 2 weeks.
Late 2017 comes around, and you had what you casually describe as a medical hiccup.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that old chestnut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I right? Like, we're like 5 years later, though, from you getting diagnosed with a brain tumor.
Yeah, so what I actually had, and I say had, because I believe that I'm good, right? I believe that I don't have it. And I am a very big proponent of your mind and your body wants to be healthy. And your mind is more powerful than you can imagine, right? And I say that I'm cured, but doctors never will. They can't, because if they said someone's cured and they're not, they lose their license and all that shit. So when I say that I'm cured from it, it's me saying, but I believe it in my heart. Because what I had was this thing called glioblastoma, which is one of the most deadly cancers that you could ever have. The only thing I think that can kill you faster is pancreatic, and there's no cure, right? It's not like a tumor. It's not like just the tumor. It was basically the most deadly cancer that you could get. And I didn't know until later on that my diagnosis or my prognosis was like 6 months to a year and a half tops. That was it. I lost feeling from like my elbow to my fingertips, and then from my knee to my toes on my right side. And even when I went into surgery, before I went in, they told me that that was the best I'd ever be again. I might be a little bit worse coming out, and that's not the case.
How did the doctors react to that? Was they given a worst case scenario, or if they say they're expecting you to come out the same as you went in, but you come out so much better?
So they attributed that to the tumor that I had was like 2 inches. Like, it was massive. And when they took it out, it relieved a lot of the pressure that was building up. So they just attributed to me getting all my reflexes and everything back to that. I was only in the hospital for like a day. And before I left the hospital, they were like, okay, we want to make sure you can walk so that we can make you leave. And I did jumping jacks backwards up the stairs. The nurse was like, you're kind of a shithead, aren't you? I said, yeah, a little bit. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know what to say on all that because, you know, we just toured together and I wasn't supposed to do that, you know? Like, I wasn't supposed to do anything. I wasn't supposed to be able to tie my shoes, and just to prove them wrong, I did a half marathon within a year. Was it a year? No, it was a little over a year. I did a half marathon.
Do you think this recent tour, could you consider it both maybe a closing of a chapter and also a brand new one?
Oh, 100%. 100%. You know, like that 5 years. So in that time, right, if you go 5 years back, I lost my dad. Lenny died. I got hit with the brain cancer within like a year and a half. And then dealing with that, when Roger gets killed. Well, no, sorry. Then my brother dies. My little brother had an overdose in, not last year, but the year before. And then Roger died 6 months later. And that 5 year span, 6 year span, really emotionally and like physically just kicked my ass.
Any one of those is enough for a lot of people.
Yeah, it was really tough. So, you know, when Raj died, I wasn't even like, he got killed, and I went straight from like the anger, like I skipped the anger stage, right? I skipped the anger stage and went to anger isn't going to do shit. It's not going to bring my brother back. It's not going to fix this. And like I had gotten to that point because of all the shit I'd been through the previous years, you know, that I was like, I'm not going to deal with this with anger. This isn't the way I'm going to do this. And I didn't know if I would play again when Roger died, right? Because Roger was like, Andy would call us Mick and Keith. He was like, he said that Roger and I were the Mick and Keith of the band. We worked off each other. I would know if I was on something good just by watching Roger's reaction. Like if I wrote a riff, I would play it and just watch Roger listen to it. And I could tell by the way he shook his head if he liked it or if he didn't. If he started going like this, like bobbing back and forth, like he's like in a boxing match, that meant it was good. If he just kind of stopped, that meant I was off the mark.
It's a non-starter.
Yeah. It was just like, oh, okay, next one. But, you know, that was where this tour came in because we were like, we have to do something for him. I have to write a song for him for no reason other than that's what I do, right? That's what we do as musicians. When we deal with shit, we deal with it through music. So we wrote The Stain of Philadelphia, and I played it for Andy and Larry, our drummer at the time, and they loved it. And I was like, well, who are we going to get to play bass for it? Because I need a bass player that's going to sound like Roger. I don't want to play Roger's parts. Who are we going to get to play? And I was like, well, Roger's favorite bass player is Sammy Yaffa. So I reached out to Sammy Yaffa, and Sammy Yaffa said he'd love to do it. And then we have this song, and then I'm like, why don't we just fucking tour it? You know, why don't we just go on tour and play this song? And I reached out to Gav, and I was like, Gav, thinking about touring. And he was like, well, give me a minute. Got back to us. He's like, what would you think about touring with CJ and Rich? And I was like, whoa, yeah, of course. So it was like out of tragedy.
Out of the worst possible situation.
Right. One of the best times of my life came about, you know? And I do feel like it closed that chapter of the dark times. And I hope I'm not naive in saying that, but it really did close this big part, this huge part of me, you know, this huge part of not just me, but a bunch of people, you know, like so many people are involved. And it feels like now we can move on. Now we can focus on, like, I was only sleeping like 4 hours a night for months before this tour. And I'm like, I can't stay awake. My wife is getting pissed at me because I'm like trying to watch movies with her, and like 9 o'clock comes around and I'm like, I'm fucking done, man. Next thing I know, I wake up and it's 6 o'clock and I'm like, oh shit, I slept all night. That was rad.
Unreal, man. It's so cool to see where you're at now. Just the creativity is still flowing, and I'm excited to see what's next, mate, because the next chapter's definitely coming.
It is. It starts now.
Yeah.
You know? Starts now.
Mate, I'm going to let you get back to those Halloween lights.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I got to get some dinner going because if they don't eat, they get hangry. So I got to go back to dad duty.
Mate, it's been a pleasure. It's lovely to see you again.
You as well, buddy.
You guys have a happy Halloween.
Thank you. You too.
Take care, and hopefully see you soon.
All right. Bye, bud.
Thanks so much to Scott Sorry for joining me here on the Straight to Video podcast. The man is a true role model and so great to see and hear him doing so well, and I can't wait for him to get back over to the UK soon. Don't forget to check out the singles Saint of Philadelphia and the Scott Sorry Grand Theft Audio collaboration That's When I Reach for My Revolver, both of which are available on Bandcamp. I've got some really great chats in the coming weeks, one of which has been on my wish list since I started this show, so please check in every Friday for a new episode, or if you want the early scoop on guests, then please consider joining the Straight to Video Patreon page, which helps support this show for just a small monthly donation. All info on that can be found over at patreon.com/STVpod. So that is all for today's episode. Hope you've had a fun time listening, and let's do it again real soon.